Good morning. Today we are starting CO15. I can multiply fractions and mixed numbers. We've worked on the adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. Now we're going to talk about the multiplying. The first thing we need to think about is the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is the number the greatest number, the greatest whole number. Oh my. So the greatest whole number that is a factor of 2 or more non-zero whole numbers. An example of this, the greatest common factor of 18 and 27 is 9. So that's the biggest factor that both of those numbers share. So the greatest common factor is the greatest whole number that is a factor of 2 or more non-zero whole numbers. Okay, so next is the mixed number. A mixed number is a number that has a whole number part and a fraction part. 3 and 2/5 is a mixed number. We have the whole number and the fraction. An improper fraction is a fraction whose number is greater than or equal to its denominator. 8/7 is an improper fraction. Remember, Mrs. Dawson doesn't want anything improper in her school. So we don't want your numerator to be bigger than your denominator, or like we learned in our from the worksheet from yesterday, they shouldn't be the same number. They shouldn't be equal. You want to make sure that if it's equal, remember that 7/7, we need it to turn into a whole one. Multiplying fractions. So the product of 2 or more fractions is equal to the product of the numerators over the product of the denominators. So we take that 1/5 times 3/8. That's the same as saying 1 times 3 over 5 times 8. So you multiply the numerators, you multiply the denominators. So 1 times 3 is 3, 5 times 8 is 40. We look at it with algebraic terms, we would put those variables in. A over B times C over D equals A times C over B times D. Let's move our page up. Let's do an example of multiplying those fractions. We have 1/3 times 5/6. What would that get us? Anthony? Yeah, 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 6 is 18. Now we have 1/4 times 7/9. What does that get us? Will?
7/36.
Yeah, 7 over 36, because 1 times 7 is 7, 4 times 9 is 36. Now we need to look at multiplying whole numbers and fractions. So dividing out common factors. When multiplying fractions, you can divide out common factors from the product's numerator and denominator so that the product will be in the simplest form. So let's look at how that looks. Here we have 3/5. When we say of, That word of means multiply. So 3/5 of 200 means 3/5 times 200. What do I do with that whole number? If I'm working with a fraction, how do I multiply a whole number? Who remembers what to do? Aiden? Put a 1 under it. So now we have two fractions we're working with. We know to multiply across. 3 times 200 equals 600. 5 times 1 equals 5. And here I'm sitting with an improper fraction, so I need to simplify. What can I divide out of 605? What's the greatest common factor? Well, it has to be a factor, so a number that you can divide out. You can't divide 120 out of 5. You were kind of confusing the multiples with the factors. Bria? 5. I can divide a 5 out of both. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 600 divided by 5 is 120. So you had already divided the 5 out. So now if we have 120 over 1, that's improper. How do I make that proper? You take the 1 off. 1 can go into 120 times. Okay, so make sure that you are always trying to simplify. What can we divide out? Now we have 45. I'm going to put that 1 under it because remember, a whole number we want to turn into a fraction times 4/5. Some of us remember how to cross simplify, something Mr. Robinson taught you last year. You can cross simplify in the beginning, and then you have less simplifying to do at the end, or you can multiply straight across and then simplify. Either way, you're going to get the same answer. So to cross simplify, we look at the diagonals. Is there a common factor we can divide out? So the 45 and 5, what could I divide out, Bria? We can divide a 5 out of 45 and a 5 out of 5. So 45 divided by 5 is 9. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Is there a common factor I can divide out of 4 and 1? No. So those numbers stay the same. So now I look at it and say 9 times 4 is 36. 1 times 1 is 1. So my answer is 36. If I divided it just the way we normally do, we have 45, or multiplied the way we normally do, we would multiply across. So 45 times 4 equals 180. 1 times 5 equals 5. Now I need to simplify. Because it's improper, I need to make it proper. How many times can I divide 5 out of 180? So I'm going to divide that 5 out of both. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 180 divided by 5 is 36. So both ways get us the same answer. If you're comfortable cross simplifying, I know last year I had some 5th graders that weren't comfortable with the cross simplifying. Just multiply it across, but don't forget to simplify at the end. If you're comfortable with the cross simplifying, it helps you use smaller numbers, so it's easier to work with. Anthony.
Does the cross simplify work for adding?
It's only with multiplication and when you're dividing, which turns into multiplying. So that only works with multiplying. You can't do it with adding and subtracting. Dividing, we'll see tomorrow. Dividing, you turn into multiplying. So I'll show you that tomorrow. Multiplying and dividing, because dividing turns into multiplying. So you do it when you're at the multiplying part. All right, let's scroll down. All right. Multiplying mixed numbers. When multiplying mixed numbers, first rewrite them as improper fractions. Then you're going to do the same thing. You can cross simplify, you can multiply across, and then simplify at the end. So if we have 8 times 6 and 1/8, or sorry, 6 and 1/6, we want to turn that 6 and 1/6 into an improper fraction. We don't want whole numbers when we're multiplying. You don't multiply the whole numbers and then multiply the fraction. Not the same as adding and subtracting. Multiplying and dividing are different. So we need to turn them into improper fractions. So that 8, we're going to turn into 8 over 1. 6 and 1/6, 6 times 6 is 36, plus 1 is 37 over our 6. We can cross simplify with our 8 and our 6. I can divide a 2 out of both of those to give me smaller numbers to work with. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 6 divided by 2 is 3. The 37 and the 1 stay the same. So now I can do 4 times 37 is 148. 1 times 3 is 3. How many times can I pull a 3 out of 148? 3 can go into 14 4 times. I have 2 left over. 3 can go into 28 9 times with 1 left over. So when you're working with those mixed numbers, turn them into improper fractions, then you can multiply. You can see if you can cross simplify, or you can just simplify it at the end. So go ahead and try number 2 on your paper and see what you end up with. 2 and 3/4 times 3 and 1/6. First thing you do is turn them improper. Then you multiply across. Oh goodness, that's big numbers to multiply across. So if you turn them into improper fractions, 2 and 3/4 would be 11/4. 3 and 1/6 would be 19/6. Multiplying across 11 times 19 is 209. 4 times 6 is 24. Am I done? No, it's improper. Mrs. Dawson does not want improper at her school. So we need to see how many times can I pull 240, I'm sorry, how many times can I pull 24 out of 209? How many times do you think I can pull 24 out of 209? 10 would give me 240. So that's going to be too big. So it's going to be smaller than 10.
8.
All right, so Will is guessing 8. So we're going to do 24 times 8. So 16, 17, 19. That gives me 192. If I were to go up one more, I think that would be too big. Yep, that would give me 216. So we want to take 24 out 8 times. So 209 minus 192, that's how many times we're pulling it out, gives us 17 left over. So 8 and 17 24ths. And our last one to try is 4 and 4/5 times 1 and 1/9. So So you want to make those improper. 4 and 4/5 becomes 24 fifths because we did the denominator 5 times 4 is 20, plus our 4 of the numerator is 24. 1 and 1/9 becomes 9 times 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Denominator stays the same. I can cross simplify this so I don't end up with those big numbers like what happened with number 2. So I'm going to cross simplify to give myself smaller numbers. 5 and the 10, I can divide a 5 out of both. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Then I have 24 and 9. I can divide a 3 out of both of those. 24 divided by 3 is 8. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And now I'm going to multiply. 8 times 2 is 16. 1 times 3 is 3. That is improper. I can pull 3 out of 16 5 times. 3 times 5 is 15. So that's 16 minus the 15. I'm left with 1. So my answer is 5 and 1/3. So it's a lot of steps that you need to make sure you follow each step. Do your math carefully. I've found that a lot of us are making simple math mistakes. So we're forgetting our multiplication facts. 8 times 3 is 24, not 28. People are confusing those math facts. So slow yourself down and make sure you're working with the correct multiplication facts. All right, that is it for the lesson today. If you are watching this at home, have a good day.